All right, and welcome back. And moving on to a decently more interesting book, Complete Adventure, the fourth and final book in the Complete series, Part 1, that revises and expands on Song and Silence, the Bard Rogue Book of 3.0. The book focuses on the overfair skill monkeys, that awkward category in a D&D party of sometimes useful, of which the rogue is the gold standard, mostly because designers overestimate how good they think the class actually is. Uh, yeah. Again, we have the everyone has a skill. And starting with classes, we have the ninja.
Nin nin.
Yep. The weeaboo class of this book that also did not appear in Oriental Adventures. A rogue with a touch of monk, adding its wisdom to AC when not wearing armor, and being the first class I've seen when looking through these books with a key pool of one half its class level plus wisdom, which is actually more sane than the current monk's key, now discipline pool technically, which is just straight one per class level, which really translates into nothing ramping up into a shit ton. They also gain Sudden Strike, a nerf sneak attack that doesn't apply when flanking, as their primary source of damage. They achieve this mainly by using Ghost Step to turn invisible for a round, which works until it doesn't. As you get higher in level, there starts to be more and more appearances of monsters that can see invisibility, though that's not like a wholly standard thing. Just like monsters being immune to sneak attack isn't a wholly standard thing, which also, by the way, would make them immune to sudden strike, so it's just one extra thing to screw with them. They can also use key to turn ethereal for a round, gain a mischance, hit incorporeal things, and ethereal jaunt as a capstone. Basically a long-range travel thing. Other features include jump good, bonuses to move things, bonuses on movement things, including tumble, better climbing, poison use, evasion, pseudo spell resistance versus scrying, and high level C. At high level, they get C invisibility. Flat. I'm pretty.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I will be right back.
Yep. Well, an Easter instinct is to say just be a rogue. The ninja's a lot better at the out of combat spy stuff, especially if they are caught and need to get away thanks to some invisibility and eventually just being able to just go ethereal and run through a few walls.
Yep.
So yeah, they're fine. They're still a weeb.
Yeah, I mean, it's still weeb. It's a different rogue, but honestly, I think it's better rogue.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
And in Pathfinder, it's 100% better rogue. That's not a go there. Yes, they did do ninja. It gets it works roughly the same, except they have a lot more things they can do with their key points. Basically, they have a whole selection of choose new thing to get with key points every 2 or 3 levels.
Okay.
They eventually get greater invisibility as an option. And their capstone, rather than being ethereal jaunt, is basically a super greater invisibility. It's a greater invisibility that can't be overcome by all the stuff that usually lets you see through invisibility. So True Sight doesn't work against see invis doesn't work against it. True Sight doesn't work against it. Their capstone is you're just not there.
Okay, that's actually neat. Granted,
no matter what you're trying to do to find you, he just isn't.
Yeah, a Pathfinder First Ed is just generally better with capstones abilities.
Yeah.
Than partially because capstones aren't really as much of a concept they thought about in 3.5 anywhere near as much. But at the same time, it's a capstone, so it's supposed to be ridiculous.
It is. But at level 10, I think is when they can do greater invisibility with it, which is now it doesn't break when you attack.
This doesn't break when you attack either.
Oh, does that not break when you attack?
No, because it's not the invisibility spell. They just go invisible. Being invisible doesn't break when you attack.
I'm back. Okay, but that's one round as opposed to it's literally just invisibility for a number of rounds equal to your class level.
Okay, so
it's not 2 key points.
Okay, so it's not burning through key points like this class.
No, it is literally the same as actual greater invisibility.
Okay, yeah, that is good. But yeah, but yeah, this invisibility actually does last for the whole round, so you do at least get to do a full round of sneak attacking. All right. Scout has a better hit die and as many skills as a rogue, but with a less versatile skill list. The Scout is all about moving, with its primary class feature being extra precision damage and AC in any round which it moved 10 feet or more, which is also its biggest flaw, as this limits them to basically one attack per round with less raw damage than the Rogue. Other features include trap finding, yippee, uncanny dodge, a growing bonus to fort and initiative that equals basically a medium fort save effectively, extra movement, trackless steps, several bonus feats from a list full of movement stuff, tracking stuff, and ranged weapon stuff. Evasion, ignore difficult terrain, hide in natural terrain, blind sense 30 feet, hide in plain sight, permanent freedom of movement at level 18, which is nice, but it's also level 18, and a capstone of blind sight to 30 feet. The Scout is built to scout well enough, but it doesn't do some of the more traditional rogue stuff like, pick locks. Granted, the wizard probably has that covered with knock, but it has also kind of a poor damage output thanks to being limited to standard action attacks most of the time to get skirmish damage, which also only scales at half rate compared to a rogue sneak attack. Overall, it's kind of just worse than rogue and kind of hard to justify. I don't think I've ever seen a person play a scout. The one nice feature is they don't have, other than moving 10 feet, there is no other setup for skirmish. But at the same time, the damage not scaling anywhere near as fast as you kind of want it to, especially for only making a single standard action attack. They were a little bit too cautious in skirmish's design in general, I think. If it gained a hit die every other level, or a damage die every other level, I think it would be fine. Because they're still just making one attack. And it's also precision damage, so it doesn't work against a great deal of the monster manual. Let's see. And finally, the third class in this book, the Spell Thief. Class has the record so far for the most words for a class at nearly 5 pages. To state the obvious, the Spell Thief is a rogue that steals spells. It gives up one sneak attack die to gain a spell of choice from its target, who loses a prepared spell of that level or a spell slot of that level, and the ability is spontaneously cast for 1 minute if it's a spontaneous caster. Or if it doesn't know that spell, they just get a random spell that the target knows. So basically, you try and guess a spell they know. If you guess right, you get either you get that spell. If not, you just get a random spell that they have. The Spell Thief can then cast that spell for 1 hour. At higher levels, they can also use the Sultan spell to cast their own spells instead of same slot or lower, basically. Their sneak attack is effectively half scaling, and other features include trap finding, detect magic, charisma times per day, a minor growing bonus to saves against spells, the ability to steal ongoing spells on a target in the same manner, the ability to steal energy resistance, charisma-based spontaneous spell casting with spells from the Sorcerer Wizard list, but with Abjuration, Divination, Enchantment, Illusion, and Transmutation ones, with a caster level of half class level, though there is still practice spellcaster to kind of make up for that. The ability to steal spell-like abilities, the ability to steal the targeted spell cast on them, charisma times per day, a charisma times per day swift action arcane sight, the concentration-free detect magic, basically. The ability to learn spells known by a target of the same level as the spell they stole, give them a better idea of what they can actually steal from future attacks, and the ability to steal a little bit of spell resistance. Of note is spell theft can be done on a voluntary target with a simple touch, making the class unintentionally powerful in a party with a high-level caster as another full set of casting actions if they have the opportunity to plan ahead. Stolen spells are cast with the proficiency of the target that they came from, not the spell thief himself. Played in a less combo manner, this class is probably good if the DM loves to throw spellcaster enemies at you, but has a somewhat rough early career as a subpar rogue and unless monsters start showing up with spell-like abilities. While it has a good spell list, it comes late and it has aggressively few slots. It's also just kind of one of those classes that if somebody takes this in the party and the DM is not catering to the class and it doesn't line up with the campaign that he built, it might just find itself not using most of his class features.
Being a worse rogue.
Yeah, basically. Being a worse rogue with, like, paladin casting. A better list, but paladin casting, basically. Which, yeah. Prestige classes. Starting with Animal Lord. Oh, wait. Starting with this list. So they're back to good guys, bad guys, and explosions for divvying up these lists. I kind of like the one from Complete Arcane better, but or really don't need to actually do that table. That just doesn't really help that much. But yeah, starting with Animal Lord. The other king class that comes in 8 varieties. Ape, bear, bird, cat, horse, shark, snake, and wolf. Class abilities that matter include Wild Aspect, which gives you various animal abilities like natural attack sometimes, fly speed, faster land speed, breathe underwater, and scent. You can't move between them because you choose one of these animals and you just get all of its stuff. Also, summon animals once per day and a capstone of +2 to a stat. This is a class, I guess, but nothing too great or inspiring that stands out.
Yeah.
Beastmaster. Yo, dog, I heard you like animal companions, so we put some animal companions in your animal companions so you can animal companion while you animal companion.
Also, 4 animal companions.
This class gets 4 animal companions. You get +3. You get +3 to your level for your base animal companion that you have that you need to get into this class, I believe. Or no, the first one you get in this class and/or one you already have. Realistically, you're going to have an animal companion before going into this class. Then you get one that is -3 to your level, then -6 to your level, and then one -9 to your level, which means you basically maybe get 2 companions that are reasonably useful in combat, and another 2 that are more utility or something. Yeah. 1 or 2 birds. If you stick around this class, that's if you stick around this class and not go back to like Druid or something, wherever you got animal companion from. All right. Bloodhound.
Not ridiculous enough. Clearly, the answer is we need a class that replaces every skill with the use of animal handling. Every skill.
Yep.
Picking locks, gotta use an animal for it. Diplomacy, gotta use an animal for it.
I mean, that one's much easier.
Acrobatics, if you're not doing some sort of gym vault off the back of a bison, you're not using your class properly.
Right, so anyways, Bloodhound.
Sorry.
Proper answer.
A bounty hunter, all about bringing in his marks, which is the class feature a lot of his abilities revolve around. It acquires a mark after 10 minutes of study of either the mark itself or something descriptive, and can only acquire 1 a week, so it's pretty much has a built-in DM involvement. As far as the marks go, the class adds its level to tracking it, take an out-of-combat ready action against it, that stays for 10 minutes. Adds con to will saves against it, deals 2 points of strength damage to it on each hit, and sees invisible marks. Other class features revolve around tracking, knocking things out but keeping them alive, and staying hidden. The mark things takes a straight up buy-in from the DM, but it could be interesting if the campaign matches this class's concept. Alternatively, you could just throw some of these abilities at PCs and ignore the otherwise lackluster class. Interestingly, 4 levels of Ranger will qualify you for this class, making it the first one we've run across that you can get into before 6 that doesn't need the shape changer subtype. Dagger Spell Mage. Members of some secret guardian cult or some such thing. Don't worry about the fluff too much when I'm going over these books. Arcane caster with a splash of rogue that gives up a spell level to cast while holding 2 daggers, which they eventually learn to channel spells into each of them so they can throw the touch spells or just hold them and stab when able. The capstone is actually fairly good, allowing the mage to quicken any spell when making a full attack, dex mod times per day. Also some sneak attacks and a pile of skills. The class has a strange amount of martialness for something that gives up only 2 levels of casting, and seems to have actually thought about its own concept for once. Now, granted, the capstone is really nice, but even the features leading up to it aren't that bad. And the other half of this, the Dagger Spellshaper. The druid counterpart to the mage, their main thing is adding the magical properties and bonuses of their daggers to their wild shape's natural attacks using the same limb, and eventually retaining the bonuses granted by stat items as well. They also gain the quicken spell from when making a full attack capstone, but that can't be done in your animal form unless your animal form is capable of wielding 2 daggers. So if you're a knife monkey, go nuts.
Knife monkey. Monkey with knife hands.
Also sneak attack. Fairly functional, not terrible for giving up a couple class levels. The wild shaping is roughly close to what a druid of the same level can do until 15, so most of the cost of the class is just the 2 spell levels you lose. Dread Pirate. You get 2 weapon fighting, a bonus to Fresh Sailor, acrobatic charge, some movement things, a capstone of leadership without the cohort. So just, you get a bunch of crew, basically. And 2 different sets of class features depending on whether you're an honorable or dishonorable pirate. Honorable pirates gain a growing bonus to diplomacy, an Inspire Courage style AoE morale bonus that stacks with the pirate's own Inspire Courage if they happen to have it, and eventually gives out temporary HP, Die Hard, and plus Charisma dodge bonus to AC, and a once per day D20 reroll. Dishonorable pirates gain a growing Intimidate bonus, 2 sneak attack dice. Intimidates eventually become AoE that lasts Charisma rounds, and the ability to buff its allies by executing a helpless individual, including members of their own crew. Honorable Pirate is just sort of a bardic music class if you squint hard enough, and Dishonorable one is somewhere between mediocre and bad, honestly. Yeah, that pretty much covers this entire class. Kind of feels like it really does feel like an NPC class, especially since you don't really get the crew until 10th level.
Yep.
And you don't need you don't really need a class for like a pirate captain. You could just yeah.
You don't need a class feature to give you a pirate crew.
Do what you
There's also
want, because pirate is free.
Exactly.
You are a pirate.
Dungeon Delver, a pure exploration class that gains no combat abilities. It gains some spell likes that help do its job, and skill mastery like the rogue does. And that's really the issue in general with this class. You could just stay rogue and probably be fine at exploration while not losing 5d6 sneak attack for, let's see, reduce person, augury, pass wall, phase door, and find the path. Exemplar. Skill monkey class that has max skills per level and all the skills as class skills, which would help with qualifying for other classes if you don't need to be 11 before you could start taking this class in the first place. At first level, it just straight up gains skill mastery and 1+ int skills, a +4 it's a +4 bonus on one of your skills and gets more as it goes up in levels. Let's see. They can also take on those skills. They can also take a penalty up to their class level to give a bonus to allies equal to initially half and eventually full, whatever the penalty they took. 3 bonus feats from a select list, not all of which are skill themed, but most are. Plus charisma to concentration and fort saves, the ability to diplomacy with their selected skills, plus int to initiative and reflex saves, and the monk's capstone of perfect self. If you're rigging a single skill, this is probably the easiest one-level dip for a +4 and straight-up skill mastery in it, but as a full class, I can only see use as a kind of fifth wheel character who's supposed to stay out of combat and not cast spells. The DM really, really doesn't want another combatant and really, really doesn't want another spellcaster in the party, I guess. With that said, it is actually a really good one-level dip if you're power gaming the fuck out of a skill.
Yeah, like those Beastmasters. They gotta rely on those animal handling skills for everything, you know?
Of course. Alright. Bucklucan Lyrist. Hybrid caster class built roughly for Bard and Druid, but also needing a splash of either Rogue or Monk to pick up evasion for no reason. Actually, let me double check something, because it's been forever, but I... Okay, yes, Bard does not get evasion. I was just making sure on that. Its levels also fully scale Bardic Knowledge and Bardic Music. The class is perfectly fine for what it is, but Bardic spellcasting is kind of 3-5. It only goes up to level 6. And the Druid is the weakest of the three base book full progression spell lists and comes with no other feature scaling. You don't get Wild Shape or anything on it.
Yeah.
Also ignore how I left Red Pirate on this page.
The Ghostface Killer.
Yep, the Ghostface Killer. Evil Ninja, the Prestige class. In addition to Ghost Step, but this time has an X times per day ability and Sudden Strike, the killer can make its Sudden Strikes frightful attacks, which are saver dies that can eventually cleave with, but it's limited uses per day and can't target things with greater hit dice than the killer. It's also a fear effect, so if anything's immune to that, it ain't gonna do shit. Or you could just ninja.
And just nin.
Well, I mean, the concept of that one is it's not actually a ninja class per se.
No, it isn't.
It has no Sudden Stack requirement, and it's actually a full base attack bonus.
It's
a weird
it is.
fighter fifth, effectively.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Or alternatively, samurai.
Or alternatively, samurai. You do have to be, yeah. But yeah, I know it's not a prestige class for ninjas so much as it is a prestige class for other martials, really.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if you'd just be better off going into ninja depending on what you're doing. You do lose base attack bonus, but not that much.
I mean, you're not going to take Ghostface Killer. It really doesn't matter.
There's also that. It is also just not good. Alright, Highland Stalker. Full base attack bonus, full skirmish progression class, which would matter more if you could make a full round attack of a skirmish without jumping through hoops. Also gains some movement stuff, swift tracker, and camouflage. Or you could just scout. Also, the example character is cheating. Yeah, you have to have skirmish or sneak attack class feature to actually get into this class. So this is a Ranger 5. Maester!
Yeah, how does that work?
They didn't pay attention to their own prerequisites or requirements. The DM missed that line. Or didn't and didn't care.
Probably that last part.
Yeah. Alright. Maester. Gnome Arcade class all about item creation that gives up a casting level for 2 bonus feats, faster crafting, and pseudo-identify. Crafting is weaker in this edition than it is in Pathfinder First, and not worth losing a caster level for it, especially for a wizard who just get a bonus feat from the same 5 levels, reducing its benefits of this class even more. Yeah.
And also, there are so much better prestige classes going to as a wizard.
Yeah, there is. Alright, Master of Many Forms. Druid prestige class that gives up all of its spellcasting and you need to go all in on Wild Shape. This class gives you the ability to talk in all forms, letting you fulfill verbal components for spells, but you need human-like hands to do the somatic components, so you'll still need that feat that lets you cast spells in Wild Shape. Also greatly expands what you can transform into. Interestingly enough, this class gives additional uses of Wild Shape, but doesn't extend duration, which is an hour per druid level anyway, so not actually as big a deal. This is a class for someone who knows what they are doing first and foremost, because you have so many options for what to transform into. And if that is the case, it can actually be quite fun. It's only weighed down by how shape-changing works and monsters are built in 3.5. The harshest thing here is you're giving us spellcasting. Well, I said earlier that the Druid list is the weakest of the full caster classes. That's the equivalent of saying that they have the lowest yield modern nuclear weapon and is still easily their most powerful class feature. With that said, it also doesn't matter, as Druid isn't a class that you have to eke out every bit of power, or you can just to not feel useless at the table, like, Monk. So, yeah, this is actually a fun concept for a Prestige class. It's just the sheer amount of effort of actually fucking running. It is the only thing that probably keeps it away from the table.
Yeah, considering you get access to humanoids, monsters, humanoids, fae, vermin, aberrations, plants, oozes, elementals, and dragons forms.
Certain forms of breakfast cereal.
So you get access. You get access to not undead and constructs.
Yep. So you have basically the monster manual to play with,
Yep.
which means you effectively turned your character into summon monster of the class.
Yeah. Only probably actually fairer than some monster.
Yeah. Because you do get the extraordinary wild shape thing, so you actually get extraordinary abilities, which you don't normally get.
Yeah. You get fast wild shape for free, so you can do as a move action as well. Yeah. And every level in this class is another use of wild shape, so you can go between forms pretty easily.
Yep.
Yeah. It is fun in concept, but a lot of work in practice. Alright. Now the Night Song duo. Well, the three duos. The second of the three duos in this book. And the Night Song Enforcer, a brute stealth roguelike class with a minor teamwork bent. It has a slower sneak attack than the rogue, but full base attack bonus and skill enhancing stuff, as well as teamwork stuff like enhancing movement and noticing skills for everyone. +1 to hit while flanking, and Opportunist, which is the real reason you're in this class. A once per round attack of opportunity that they can make against any opponent that was just been injured in melee by an ally. You're here for Opportunist unless you're playing a Rogue's Guild campaign or something, and it comes...
Free reaction attack.
Yep. It does come somewhat late. Your character level will be like 14, 15. Yeah, 15. No. Wait, Opportunist is... No, it's 6. But you have to have 10 hide. Okay, yeah, it was 14. Yeah, because it would take you to 7 to get 10 there, so this would be 8, 9,
yeah.
10... Yeah, 14. But yeah, math aside.
Yep.
It's still functional enough before you get that, and the next 2 levels after Opportunists are easily worth taking. So you're probably taking about 8 levels in this class and ditching it after.
Yeah, it's another sneak attack and improved evasion after that. So
yeah. Let's see, and its counterpart, Night Song Infiltrator. Like the previous class, but leaning more into the rogue skills and teamwork, a few of their abilities also require prep time for bonuses that aren't really worth it, but they also get some more useful utility abilities like at-will detect magic, which is fucking better than most of the perception skills for actually detecting trap, trackless step, and hide in plain sight, as well as defensive roll, a once per day reflex save. When you take damage that would reduce you to 0, you take half damage. The DC is equal to the damage you take. And they also gain improved evasion. The most notable combat thing in this class, however, is Teamwork Sneak Attack, which applies to both the Infiltrator and other models flanking with it. But I don't know why I said models, other characters flanking with it. But unfortunately, they get one in every 4 levels, making this much more questionable over the usual 1 die every 2 levels. Yeah. Which would work out to about the same amount of damage anyways. But you can set up others pretty well when combined with grant move action, which they also get.
It's got, you need to get evasion. Otherwise its skill ranks are much lower. How early does rogue get evasion?
2.
Which means you could actually do like a 2-level dip in a rogue, then immediately go into something like fighter.
Yeah,
get into this pretty easily.
I think it's the same with the it's the same with both of them. You only need like a 2-level dip into rogue or fighter.
The main issue with the other one is that it needs 10 ranks and moves silently and hide, which are not class skills for fighter.
No,
and while the other ones aren't also class skills for fighter, they're only
they're not. But you could take your 2
5
levels.
ranks.
You could take your 2 levels as like the last 2. that you take before going into the prestige class, so you could get the 10 ranks just from the crap ton of rogue skill you get.
That is true.
Because you have to take 2 levels of rogue. Technically, you could take 2 levels of monk, but okay, so you have to take 2 levels of rogue.
You're taking 2 levels of rogue. I could see infiltrator being more of a take a 2-level dip into rogue, then immediately go into something like fighter, and then just give the benefits of sneak attack to other people. Even go into the, and if you really want sneak attack, you can just do the fighter ACF that gets sneak attack instead of
bonus feats. Or also, these 2 classes could probably be merged into one just stalled and still be perfectly fine and balanced.
Yeah.
Olem. Dwarf that gets the ability to make magic weapons and armor as well as bonuses for using... Oh wait, sorry, that's the Battlesmith from Races of Stone. They recycled the art from the Battlesmith from Races of Stone. They literally just changed the caption. Dwarf caster class that gives up a level of spellcasting to know random things and give out skill bonuses at will, and slightly that are slightly higher for dwarves. Know that you can target yourself. Doubles the effectiveness if you have Inspire Competence, and can spend a use of bardic music, mean they can give themselves a +6 bonuses to any skill, which is at least a nice little trick. The final level and the second one that loses spellcasting gives an at-will standard action targeted buff that gives bonuses to fort saves and con checks, which are bigger if they're dwarf. Also comes with DR5 dash if a dwarf. Also fatigues if not a dwarf, so seriously uses only on a dwarf. The best part of this, honestly, is the personal +6 to skill checks. Losing casting levels is less important to a bard as well, so if you're just doing a bard, that's not anywhere near as painful. But you really want to be in a dwarf party for this to get the most out of it, especially the level 5 ability.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, Shadowbane Inquisitor. Yep. The Paladin Rogue hybrid class, though a higher level clerk could also get into this class technically, but that's less than ideal for the class features. As far as those are concerned, they get some sneak attack, smite, whatever the hell they want, a 24-hour +1 bonus to fort and reflex saves whenever something they have smited dies, a +1 to attack and damage versus something they've smited, a growing bonus to stealth skills at the cost of spell slots, and Piercing Shadows, which lets you use a turn attempt as a standard action for a decent duration life source that at level 9 lets them spend a standard action and another turn attempt to do 4d6 typeless damage with no saves to everything within, let's see, 20 feet plus 5 feet per level area except the Inquisitor, which is not good but is hilarious in a low-level monster camp or a drow town square or something like that.
Look, if you other Shadowbane Inquisitor around with you, they'll gladly take that damage.
Almost certainly.
There is a whole thing about in the whole lore of Shadowbane Inquisitors, how they are always worried that other Shadowbane Inquisitors are evil, or maybe bad guys and whatnot. So there's a common thing of allowing Shadowbane Inquisitors to smite each other with regular smites, because they're often just Paladin or Paladin Rogue or multi-classes.
Yeah.
To make sure that they're not, to make sure they're still good. Because a regular smite wouldn't work on them if they weren't evil.
Yep. Yeah, this class does what it says on the tin, and it's also one of the few sources of a free clause-free smite that a paladin can access. Though its damage doesn't stack with paladin levels, and while you could double smite an evil thing, you wouldn't get to your charisma twice to attacks, unfortunately. But it will.
You would get full damage.
Yeah, but it will trigger Devoted Inquisitor, and we'll get to that more later. And its counterpart, Shadowbane Stalker. The more clerk-oriented hybrid rogue class, though a paladin could take this too, except the Inquisitor is right over there.
It's right over there, yes. Correct.
Gets spell progression as well as the same sneak attack and spell to stealth as the Inquisitor, as well as a growing bonus to Search and Sense Motive. The first caster level loss gives them the ability to swift action as a swift action to lose a spell for a +4 sacred bonus to AC for that spell level rounds, and the next 4 levels of increasing class features. The second loss of casting gates gates their capstone, a Sacred Strike which lets them use a swift action to lose a spell to gain spell level precision damage d6s to the next attack that round, with a cap of their sneak attack dice, which is a minimum of 4 when you get to this level.
Yep.
This probably works better as a rogue taking levels as a cleric to qualify, losing some sneak attack device for divine spells, minor tricks, and burst damage as a capstone, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you did like a to give the cast Detect Evil's divine spell, which is like level 1.
Yeah,
So
so it's a 1 level
you
cleric
can
dip.
dip into this with a 1 level cleric dip, and then end
Then-
up getting 9 levels of cleric casting out of it, which means you get most of the cleric attack buffs.
Yeah. Yeah,
But,
and
but both these classes are good.
yeah, both these classes are good.
In fact, Shadowbane Inquisitor was the prestige class for a major NPC in the first big campaign we ran.
Which makes sense. Alright, Shadow Mind. Psionics Rogue hybrid class of this book, which you can get into quickest with 4 levels in any Psionic class, plus 1 level in something with hide and move silently as class skills, or just Ranger if you're a Scion for the base attack bonus. As Concealing Amorpha is a level 2 power on all lists, and Wilder doesn't get level 2 powers until 4, to just make it a little bit worse for no fucking reason. You can also just hang out in any of the classes until 7 if you want to only lose 3 Manifestor levels instead of 4, but Practice Manifestor is a feat in a much later book, so the difference is not as big as it may seem. Though there's another issue if you're actually actually do have complete psionics that works against this class, where that feat is located. As far as other features are concerned, they get Read Thoughts as a power and a once per day discount of class level to a minimum of 1 on an augmentable power that costs 3. You can also reduce the meta psionic costs, I guess, for that power. There's none worth using on it. They get Cloud Mind. Target can't perceive you on a failed save, ending if you attack them, and giving new saves if you affect the environment around them by doing things like attacking. With its own discount, and is also an unaugmentable 3-point power. But yeah, I could see augmenting like Quicken onto it for that one, so the discount is more than just 2 after a certain point. And Mass Cloud Mind, which has the same clauses but at least costs 11 points, so the discount can be actually decent. The problem with Cloud Mind is probably the very thing that you're the very thing that you're thinking about is the fact that it just kind of sucks for trying to. It's just no substitute for invisibility because they have to fail a will save or the power did nothing, and you have to kind of start manifesting it over and over again. If they haven't seen you yet, you might be able to get away with that. It's easy enough. But in general, like, Psionics does not do sneaky. It does not do invisibility anywhere near as well as magic does. Let's see. Other features are standard issue sneak attack dice and a capstone of once per round a free action manifestation of Cloud Mind on something damaged by your sneak attack, which is neat but not great. If you want to do a rogue manifester, here's what you actually do. You wait 15 months from when this book came out, and then just take Lurk, because Lurk is literally a rogue that is in complete psionics. Or, alternatively, you dig through the Wayback Machine and follow various links, which is what you'd have to do nowadays, or you just go to the Wizards of the Coast website and just take Psychic Rogue, because that also existed. In all seriousness, this class is okay-ish, but the loss of manifesting at the time that came out isn't completely made up for by the abilities it has, and there's just better options by the time you can spackle over the lost manifestor levels with feet.
Yep.
The Spy Master! Easy to get into if Skill Monkey and is itself a Skill Monkey. Gains proficiency in martial weapons and medium armor, cover identities and bonuses for having them, half of which is something that doesn't need to be a class feature. Seriously, you could just make cover identities. Yes, this has a mechanical, it has its own extra mechanical bonuses, or built-in mechanical bonuses, I guess, but literally just make a fucking disguise and just start calling yourself a different name. It's not that hard.
It's me, Guy Master.
Exactly. Other than that, they have permanent undetectable alignment as an extraordinary ability. I don't know how that works either. Quick change still takes minutes, so it's not that quick a quick change. At will, Nistel's magical aura, which disguises items as either magic or non-magic. It has like a 1 day per level duration, so they can basically always pretend that no item they have is magic. Sneak attack trademark, slippery mind, and a bunch of stuff to hate on scrying. Or you could just rogue.
Yeah, but then I would be doing a bad prestige class.
Also, they have a poor attack bonus. What the fuck is this nonsense? Why? Street Fighter. Full base attack bonus class that gives a minor growing initiative bonuses, minor bonus to OK skills, eventually twice per day fort save against damage to take only half of it as non-lethal, a sneak attack die, and uncanny dodge. Or you could just anything that isn't meh. Did I describe anything that appealed to you? Really? How? How did I describe anything that appealed to you?
No, because you didn't say anything about beating up cars.
Exactly. Alright, Tempest, something that's actually worth talking about. This is
Steel Wheeler.
Yep, the 2-weapon fighting class. Gives bonuses AC while 2-weaponing in light armor, reduces attack penalty for 2-weaponing to 0, lets you share feats with your 2 weapons. So if you have weapon focus, if you're using an axe and a sword, you have weapon focus with the axe, you can also use it on the sword. And lets you attack with both weapons if you're doing spring attack. Severely improving spring attack is something you might actually do on occasion. Probably not, but still. More of a tool for builds than an end in of itself, but a decent option in context. Though I wish this class was honestly just replaced with feats / making weaker feats more powerful. It's fine. You're here for like probably 4 levels, but it's fine. Alright, Thief Acrobat. One of the oldest classes in this book, dating back to some of Gygax's last work in Dragon Magazine, and it was effectively a split class that a thief could go into at 6th level, making it the equivalent of a prestige class. Is almost exactly what you expect. A class that is good with movement skills, stands up for free, gains a bit of AC bonus that becomes bigger if fighting defensively or taking a total defense action. Fighting defensively is a minus to hit for plus AC when you make attacks. Total defense action is just was it a standard or a full round action that just gives a large-ish bonus to AC? I forget which.
Oh, fighting defensively?
Yeah. Total defense action. Fight defensively.
I'm pretty sure total defense action is a full round.
Yeah, I think so too. Let's see. They also gain slow fall like a monk. Acrobatic charge. You can charge over terrain. Normally charge is a straight line. Charge over terrain. You can, I think, also make turns or stuff. They have defensive roll as well, skill mastery, improved evasion, and no offensive abilities to speak of, and honestly nothing impressive here, especially in the heavy casting edition of the game. Like, even just level dips, even just a 5-level dip into, like, Wizard or Sorcerer would probably give you most of the equivalent features of this class in just spell casting. And if you don't want to do that, you might well be able to replace a lot of the ability to just do all the moving through various obstacles and or slow fall with, I don't know, Boots of Fly. Alright. Vigilante. The Batman class that gets an enormous 33 third level spells at level 10. Certainly not an obvious typo here. Let's see.
Yep. 0, 1, 20.
What's amazing is that they kept the typo going.
It's a formatting error. What most likely happened was this is a
the extra numbers are supposed to be on the fourth little spell column.
yeah. It's probably a margin thing that they just missed on the starting at level 5. Yeah.
What's weird is that they don't have, or that they have a 0 for one of those.
Yeah, because you can get extra spells by having a high enough cast modifier.
Oh, fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah, you'll find that on most casting classes actually.
Yep.
But yeah, this gives you martial weapon proficiencies and net proficiency, as well as detect evil at will. Only the shadow knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. Arcane spontaneous charisma casting with its own spell list full of utility tricks, tools, and illusions, including swift spells. Except no, it doesn't actually have its own spell list. It is all the abjuration, divination, illusion, necromancy, and transmutation spells on the bard list. They just printed a list here for your own convenience. That is actually what's
on the bard list.
Yeah, it's fine. You're a 4-level caster anyways.
That's true. You're not doing much for casting.
Yeah. They also have Smite the Guilty, one of the most conditional smites in the game. Only usable against someone within 3 days of you personally witness them committing a crime in your home city.
Did they misprint this book? I think it's supposed to be in the Race to Destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually more surprised. Didn't get to the printer in time.
Shit, I guess put in a complete adventure.
Let's see. As well as some skill bonuses, quicker searching, quicker hiding, move action after a bluff check to make it overly clunky on the quicker hiding. Speak with dead once per day, dimensional anchor, which is once per day, which is basically create a no teleport zone, and metal, because sure, why not?
They had to give it something good.
Yeah. This class is
already at level 9.
Yeah. Yes, it is at level 9. I mean, this class is fine and built more for stealth and investigation than anything else, which may be okay for a campaign specifically tailored around this character specifically as the focus. It drops off very quickly if you're doing anything else.
You got this character, so you got the bounty hunter character.
Yeah.
This class and Races of Destiny classes.
Yeah.
Got something going. That guy who really hates humans and elves.
Virtuoso. A bard-like arcane prestige class that loses a caster level and would need a level dip into something if you're not just a bard and you don't find an arcane caster class with perform as a skill, but gives bardic music uses and scales inspire courage, as well as giving fascinate if you aren't a bard and virtuoso performance. A parallel skill with its own class level that you lets you still cast spells while performing, and also lets you use 2 uses of bardic music to activate it instead of your uses of virtuoso performance. The songs themselves let you use perform as a diplomacy check, heal the dying, keep enemies from casting within 30 feet with a probably rigged perform check for concentration DC for them to do so. So you make a perform check, and they can't cast unless they beat that perform check with their concentration. And you know you have this class feature, so you've rigged your perform check into the fucking sky. Let other allies rage, dominate person, and AoE true scene. Honestly, this is actually a fairly good list of random ass abilities, and you can still cast while doing them. It's perfectly fine for a bard who doesn't want to lose his casting for a prestige bardic music-like things, and interesting for a full arcane caster if you can figure out how to get into it without a level dip. It's not impossible, but kind of hard. Mainly because of the perform thing, and none of them have perform on their list. At least none of the base books have perform on their list. Wild Plains Outrider. 3-level riding class that has a rideable animal companion or paladin mount ability as a prerequisite, and continues to scale these abilities as well as giving you minor bonuses to ride handle animal, letting you make your horse more sneaky and faster, and allowing you to make a full round attack after your mount moves. That last point being really the most redeeming thing in this class. It's narrow but good for 3-level class that gets straight to the point without a bunch of questionable nonsense. Especially good for mounted archer, but is not a bad alternative to cavalier if you also want to go into another prestige class and not just do like 5 times damage with a lance or something.
But you do want to do 5 times damage to the lance.
You usually want to do 5 times damage per with a lance, but like I don't know. Again, if you're like a mounted archer instead, if you're a ranger and happen to have like a horse or something else that you're riding,
Yeah,
Pegasus, yeah. Skills and feats. So unlike what I usually do and skip completely into the skill section, we'll talk a little bit here about skills. Yeah, so this is the this being the actual book all about the skill using classes, which are kind of over fair. There's a few other rules here for individual events. Aid Another happens to be in action and is a good exemplar of how they just make things overly clunky in this edition, because in order to aid another, DC 10 check by whatever skill you're trying to give them a +2 bonus in, or if this was a sane rule system, you ignore the DC 10 check and just give them a +2 bonus. As we have to throw extra D20 rolls at the table for no reason. But yeah, there's also stuff like individual events that are described in here. Basically how often you can actually make skill checks, etc. And or what type of penalties to give them on that. So if they're trying over and over again to do something. Skill synergies. To remind people that skill synergies exist. Much to the annoyance of everyone making a character. Hey, do you want this extra +2 bonus for taking ranks in another skill? Yeah, you probably do, but do you know what skills have synergy with what are the skills? Of fucking course you don't. You have to look them up in the goddamn book for that. Huh. Also in this book is just, again, it has more things you can use skills for, or you just, make them up yourself. Not all of them are completely off. In this one, it's not completely obvious, and there's a couple of note on this page specifically. Quick lockpick is, hey, do you want to try to just straight up pick a lock as a move action? Okay, add 20 to the DC, which is, I guess, a neat option to do that. And more to the point, here's Assess Opponent, which will come up later because I have more comments on it, but it is basically use Sense Motive to try and actually figure out how difficult the thing you're trying to fight is. Granted, this is a standard action, not generally worth doing, but again, I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later. And onto the feats. And onto the feats I actually care about. So new to this book are the aesthetic and devoted feats, which are for paladin or for monk and paladin respectively. So one thing I didn't go over when I went over the player's handbook is if you ever take levels in monk or paladin and then take levels in something else, you can't go back to taking levels in monk or paladin normally.
Yep.
You are stuck at whatever level you stopped at. These feats, in addition to giving you other random bonuses, let you actually multi-class between monk and another class. So aesthetic mage here, for example, lets you, as a swift action that doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity, you can sacrifice a spell to add a bonus to your unarmed strike attack and damage rolls for a round equal to that spell level, which actually isn't a terrible bonus. Your sorcerer and monk levels stack to determine the bonus AC, and the most important part of all is when you're unencumbered, instead of adding wisdom to your AC, you add charisma. Thus making it less mad as a multi-class, so you don't actually need to boost your wisdom into this guy. Charisma will do. This would have actually been a lot more useful in Complete Arcane as well, where you have the Arcane Monk Prestige class that is so desperately mad.
It's weird because it lets you use Charisma instead of Wisdom for your AC, but not for any of your other Monk class features, like Stunning Fist and all that jazz, are still based off Wisdom.
That is true, but that class specifically lets you use Stunning Fist for things other than Stunning Fist.
Yeah, it's not a complete get rid of Wisdom and use Charisma. It's actually adding another. Yeah. It's actually technically making the class more mad if you want to try and use everything it has.
Well, you're making yourself more mad already because this is it for a multi-class with Sorcerer.
Yeah.
Let me double check. Yeah, it is wisdom for Stunning Fist, but yeah.
Yep.
Devoted Inquisitor, which I mentioned earlier, Shadowbane Inquisitor, this is the Rogue Paladin one, and that is specifically a Rogue Paladin one. So whenever you successfully use your sneak attack ability with your Smite Evil against the same foe in a single attack, you can daze them. Dazes, they just straight up lose their turn. This is a free thing. They have to make a will save, and this is actually a decent DC because it's 10 plus half level plus charisma modifier, or be dazed for a round. That's the only feature you get, but this is not actually a bad feature.
No, I mean you're taking this. You're presumably going to go into Shadowbane Inquisitor, so you're going to be smiting people.
Yeah.
And sneak attacking at the same time. So you're going to get the daze effect, and this lets you still class into Paladin or Rogue, no issue.
Yeah. Yeah, the only little hitch here is this is only the Smite Evil, not the Smite feature from Shadowbane Inquisitor. But
yeah, but you're probably if you end up going 220, your build is probably mostly Paladin if they dip into Rogue to get sneak attack, and then Shadowbane Inquisitor. So you're going to have more Smite Evils.
Almost certainly.
Plus, if you have feats available, you can just take the feat for extra smites.
Yeah, it's just you have to pick which of the smites you're going to get extra smites with, which is usually the Shadowbane Inquisitor one, but
it'll have a little bit higher bonus to it because you're going to have 10 levels of it as opposed to 7.
Between that and Shadowbane Inquisitor does have you can use it versus a construct.
You can't. It just works on everything.
Yeah.
You basically say you are evil in my eyes. Smack.
Yeah. Let's see. Brutal Throw, which is actually a pretty good feat if you are actually trying to make a throwing character, as you add strength to attack rolls instead of dex. Strength is also being added to your damage rolls, so you can kind of cut dex out of the equation when doing throwing weapons. Though, granted, I think a lot of the range feats do have dex as prerequisites, but I don't think they're as aggressive as two-weapon fighting was. Yeah, like dex 13 for shoot on the run. Where is many shots? Because I think that would probably be the higher. Many shots of dex 17, so.
Yeah, you will still be dex locked if you're going to do. You'll still need a decent dex if you're doing heavily into range builds.
Yeah. Although you can't really many shot. Well, this would be a thrown build anyways, and you can't many shot with a thrown build.
Yeah, the thrown build you just go into strength.
Yeah.
Brutal throw.
Yeah, you'll still need some dex, but it doesn't have to be anywhere near as high. Combat intuition. Oh yes, this is the one I wanted to talk about. So this one lets you just, that sense motive to assess how tough things are. How about instead of doing it as a standard action, you just do it as a straight free action, and here's a giant bonus to it, and it's even more accurate, and it's still not worth taking. But it is very interesting. I actually like this feat, and it's not good. There are kind of enough feats that you can occasionally eat one of the feats that is just kind of interesting and or okayish, but you also kind of have to be power gaming sense motive, and it makes me wish for for something that is somewhere lesser than feats, but great, and this actually does appear later in this edition, and there is an actual concept related to this later in this edition that doesn't cost you a full-on feat in order to gain minor trinkety bonuses, like this one, and is actually kind of an interesting thing to put in the system in general. But we'll get to that when we get to that book, which will be in quite a while because it's a complete scoundrel. Aegis, Death Opportunist, +4 bonus on attack rolls when making attacks of opportunity. Like when you trigger Opportunist and just straight up hit something that got hit by an opponent or by one of your allies.
Expert Tactician works right with that too.
Yep. If you hit a creature with an attack of opportunity, you and your allies get a +2 bonus on attack and damage rolls against it for a round.
Yep. Specifically melee attack and damage rolls.
Yeah. Extra. Which, in general, if you're a rogue, not only do you want to be dealing, or melee is...
You and the person you're flanking with.
Yeah, you and the person you're flanking with will almost certainly be doing melee. Rogues generally want to be in party with another melee because flanking is the easiest way to get sneak attack on multiple attacks.
Yep.
Extra music, 4 extra uses of bardic music. So... I realized watching back one of our streams for Races of Stone of all things, that I put the bardic music metamagic feat on the screen and didn't talk about it at all. So there's a bardic music metamagic feat where you can just spend bardic music in order to do metamagic.
Sick.
It is...
There, we've talked about it. Done.
Yeah. It is way more fair than the divine metamagic one, in the sense you actually have to have the feat and you can't augment it to above what your spell slots could normally do. But if you're doing like a dip into bard or went off into that prestige class that happened to give you bardic music uses, you could also use this to get more uses. Yeah. Let's see. Extraordinary concentration. When concentrating to maintain a spell, you can make a concentration check that you've probably rigged to maintain the concentration with just a move action. Normally, there are very few concentration spells in 3.5, but they're a lot more harsh than in 5th edition. Whereas 5th edition, concentration on a spell is you can just have one concentration, that's it. Concentration in 5th edition eats up your, or in 3.5 eats up your standard action every turn normally. This lets you reduce it to a move action, or if you get it high enough, reduce it straight up to a swift action. Which is an interesting feat and a fairly powerful one that I did not actually realize existed. Granted, there's not too many concentration spells that you care all that much about. But, yeah, just an interesting thing if you ever build around those spells. And also it has a prerequisite of 15 ranks, so it's a level... You'd have to be level 12... Yeah, this is a level 12 feat, basically.
Yeah.
Let's see. Insightful reflexes, letting you add your intelligence instead of your dex to your reflex saves, and continuing along the feats that replaces everything with your intelligence. Mobile spellcasting, much lower level get into concentration when casting a spell. If you succeed, you cast the spell, move up to your move speed as a single standard action, letting you... Oh yes, the other thing about this, the DC is 20. Here's the plus. Spell level. They decided to hide part of the text partway through the art for a completely different ability.
Yeah, it's a precursor to ARGs. You just gotta find the secret in the art. Right there.
Also note, you still provoke attacks of opportunity for casting spells from any creatures that threaten you during the movement, but you can cast defensively. So you won't provoke attacks of opportunity for casting the spells of the creatures that threaten you during the movement. But you will provoke attacks of opportunity for moving in threatened areas.
Correct.
So I'm not sure what the point of that is, but sure. You're also tumbling, I guess. Natural Bond, add 3 druid levels for Animal Companion, up to blah blah blah. So if you actually want to try to do the Animal Companion Prestige class with something that isn't a druid, this is a way of just making up the hit dice, because I think Ranger is like -3. Also, it just catches the Ranger's Animal Companion up to max level, basically. Let's see, Staggering Strike. If you do what you're going to do anyways as a rogue, deliver a wound that limits your foe's mobility for 1 round. They are treated as if they are staggered. By limiting their mobility, they mean they can only take a move or standard action. That's more than limiting the mobility, by the way.
Potentially limiting their ability.
Yes. They do get a fortitude save, but it is DC equal to damage dealt, which if you are a straight rogue is kind of a lot with a sneak attack. Oh yeah, there's no like limit on this ability in any way. If you're doing a full round attack and doing multiple hits, they have to save every time. Multiple staggering strikes don't stack, but if they fail any one of those saves, they've basically lost their full round action in the next round, which means you're probably not paced. Let's see. And subsonics. You can produce music or poetic yes, subsonics, which lets you actually use bardic music without anyone knowing that you're using bardic music. This is important for stuff like Fascinate, which mainly exists as a AoE out of combat crowd control of sorts, so you can like make a bunch. The idea of Fascinate is the bard starts playing music and all the foes in the room just kind of go into a lull state and you sneak past them. Except if you're in a room of like, I don't know, like 5 dudes, all of whom have to make saves versus the Fascinate, and one of them fails, you didn't really accomplish your goal when when the one guy who didn't make the save notices what's happening and just goes over and starts like knocking the other people out of the Fascinate ability, because I think it's like just a standard action to do.
Yep, you just shake them when they get back to it.
Yeah. But there's a way of at least trying to make it work a little bit better. As if they don't realize there's a bard performing a Fascinate in the area, they might not realize that their allies have been fascinated. You can at least throw some spot checks onto it or something. Alright. Also, bardic music feats, which are basically akin to adding different bardic music effects as feats, give or take. Chant of Fortitude adds Die Hard here, which is definitely a thing that exists. Iron Skin. Swift action doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity. Right, that's a swift action that's just DR5 to someone, which is not bad for a bardic music use. Oh yes, and Lyric Spell, which is a more important one, which lets you just straight up cast a spell using uses of bardic music. 1+ spell level uses of bardic music to just cast a spell.
Yeah.
Just straight up good and just gives them extra spell slots, especially if you're taking like extra bardic music for reasons. Is also particularly interesting. Yeah, so this doesn't just apply to bardic spells, this applies to any
Spontaneously arcane spells.
Yeah. So if you happen to be that Prestige class from Complete Arcane that is a 9-level bardic caster, you can spontaneously cast any of the sorcerer spells you happen to learn as well.
Yeah.
Granted, you're going to, for like the higher level spells, you're going to need a shit ton of bardic music uses, but if you happen to have extra bardic music uses from, I don't know, taking extra bardic music feats, you get a lot of extra spell casting. There are more wild feats. Here's all of them. None of these are particularly good, but I just wanted to point that out. New weapons! Also new weapons. Same thing I just said. Do you want a slightly fancier rapier that I think has exactly the same stats? And like slight bonuses to a few things. This will cost you an extra feat to be able to use. Right, moving on. Okay, something that's actually interesting. There's new alchemical items in this book, some of which are like minor skill bonuses, but there's also these things called alchemical capsules. Which don't have a long duration, but also take like you can break the you can break the capsule. If you have a delivery device, it's actually a swift action to get this bonus. So for example, as long as you have a capsule retainer or now chemical tooth, you can break capsules as a swift action. Some of these bonuses are better than others. Yeah, Iron Man, which lets you ignore being staggered. Leap, +4 bonus to jump checks for a round. There's balance. Strength checks, melee damage, which is not the worst thing in the world. Oh yeah, this one, which is easily the best one. Just increase your speed by 5 for 2 rounds. Although at the end of which you become fatigued, but yeah. Like, those weren't too great. The weapon ones were more interesting because they're built on the same concept, except you can... Basically, you can have a weapon capsule retainer for one capsule or a triple for 3 uses. Also, these are cheap as shit.
Yeah, 15, 100.
Yeah. So, Ghost Blight, which is one of the more interesting ones is just straight up, you don't have a mischance versus incorporeal things in this last 3 rounds. If you got 3 of these in your weapon, it will last 9 rounds. If you're fighting ghosts, this is just a straight up, not even that bad of expense to just turn your normal weapon into a ghost touch weapon for as long as you need it to be. In addition, there's also Quicksilver, which makes your weapon silvered for the same duration. Also, fairly good option if you're fighting devils or things like that, or lycanthropes. And Quick Flame, Quick Frost, and Quick Spark, which are a round of doing a d6 extra insert element tier damage if none of the above applies. Like, in general, these aren't actually that bad.
Oh.
Let's see. Extra tools. The most interesting thing I found here was the Long Spoon Thieves Tools, which is literally Thieves Tools on a 5-foot pole.
Look, if you can pick a lock with that, you are incredibly skilled.
And Masterwork Instruments, which instead of getting a bonus to skills, they actually just affect bardic music. So Masterwork Drums here, for example, increases the weapon damage bonus from Inspire Courage, but reduces the bonus to saves against Charm and Fear effects. Or Masterwork Fiddle here, which, yeah, increases the bonus versus Charm and Fear effects by 1 or 2, because they know that's not really what you're using Inspire Courage for, mostly. And various other little things. The Flute, which does nothing. I refuse to believe anything involving Countersong does anything.
It allows you to activate the melody of one ability and the refrain of another.
That's a different game. Let's see. Magic. On to the magic items. Beast Skin is in here, which is a +2 bonus that you apply to armor, and it shape changes with you when you shape change. Also Focus, which helps you faint for, which gives you bonus on your. No wait. Helps you see through feints. So if you the DM is
bonus on your sense motive against their bluff.
Yeah. Also, when you're thrown by only one creature, you get +1 AC. It is a bonus on shields, specifically. Let's see. Weapon properties. Sizing, which increases or decreases size as you polymorph, which is not actually bad, especially for like a master of many forms. And Deadly Precision. Granted, it's +2 bonus, but it's just 2d6 extra sneak attack dice. You have to have sneak attack dice to use it.
Yep.
Here's some specific weapons. None of them are terribly of note, but they have neat pictures. Also, there's some potions. Here's some rings. The lockpicking ring I did find amusing because it's a +5 confidence bonus to open locks and the ability to use knock once per day, which just makes you sad.
I can use this to make myself better at picking locks and also just completely ignore them like every wizard can.
Let's see. And wondrous items. There are few of note. Choker of Eloquence, which is +5 or 10 bonus to Diplomacy, Bluff, and Perform Sing. Speaking of rigging up perform checks, especially the one that doesn't actually require you to have hands free. Headband of Conscious Effort. Which is nice because it lets you use a concentration check in place of a fortitude save. This is kind of great for a caster. The only issue being the headband slot is also
the headband slot.
Yeah, as the headband slot is where you get the int item, but if you have an alternate slot for int or somehow have a +6 belt of magnificence, this is actually bad for not being horribly screwed over by fortitude saves as a caster. And Spool of Endless Rope, which is here because it's amusing. Endless has an asterisk next to it, as you would expect. It is a maximum of 500 feet of rope at any one time. If you cut off a section of rope, it disappears into the ether, but is automatically added back into the rope, so it is it always has 500 feet that you can use. And on to spells, which there's actually a lot of spells that were actually interesting in here. Starting with Arrow Mind here, which is actually just a good ranger spell. It's an immediate action, lasts a minute per level. This is, as you would expect from a name like Arrow Mind, mainly for the range build of ranger, but is straight up. They now threaten the squares next to them, and they don't provoke opportunities for making range attacks in melee. So they take away all of the minor problems you might have as a range attacker as a level 1 ranger spell.
Yeah.
Other interesting things were Arrow Storm, where you cast a spell and you get to, as a full round action, make 1 range attack versus everything within a single range increment, which is really fucking far. And you make an action number of attacks equal to your character level, which is not bad if in very narrow situations, but is not a bad thing to just have in your pocket. Granted, it's a level 4 ranger spell, so it's a really high level, but eh.
It will shoot everything near you.
Yep. Blade Storm, which is a little bit more usable because level 3 ranger it's only a level 3 ranger spell and is the melee equivalent. Notably lets you attack with both your weapons if you're dual wielding, so you can get a decent amount of attacks on it. But you are limited to making attacking a number of individual targets equal to your character level.
Oh.
I don't know. You've grown fucking gargantuan. I don't know. Grown gargantuan is surrounded by goblins. I'm not sure how you get this many targets in your melee range. Let's see. Blade Weave here. That's right. This is a swift action 1 round per level buff, so a fairly decent duration buff that lets you make an additional touch attack every round as a free action. Doesn't deal damage, but forces them to make a will save or be dazed, which just straight up means they give up their turn.
Just good.
Yeah. Now, the clause here is it's Bard or Sorcerer Wizard. It's good for Bard, because they usually will be melee attacking as well, so it's a decent buff to put up, like, in the same round that you're singing or something. But it's also one of those ones that's just interesting for the classes that, like, happen to also get, like, Sorcerer Wizard spells, but only of, like, these X, Y, and Z schools or something that are otherwise martial. Or if you're level dipping, it's also kind of decent. Let's see. Bloodhound, which is mostly here because it has a 24 fucking hour duration and is a ranger spell, and since rangers just have their whole list and just choose at the beginning of the day what they have, if you happen to be tracking, if you know you're going to be tracking someone, yeah, just memorize the spell. It's straight up give or take, just like one of those things that turns a spell slot into a class feature. It's not the greatest of class features, but it does something. Basically just basically just a reroll if you fail a check to track things. Let's see. Divine Insight here. Yes. Standard action, hour per level until you discharge it, is just a high insight bonus to a skill check that you just effectively take as an immediate action.
Yep.
It is just something that in a dungeon, for example, you could just set it and forget it. And or if you know you're going to need a high skill check of one sort or another. Now, it's not on the Bard list, unfortunately, so you can't continue to use it for rigging up, like, a perform check, but there are other skill checks that you may well want to rig up for one reason or another. Let's see. Dagger Spell Stance, also known as another thing for Dagger Spell Guardians and Dagger Spell Shapers, or Daggers from earlier, because, yeah, the focus is a pair of daggers, so you pretty much need their class feat. This doesn't have semantic components, so anyone can cast it, but this is really just meant for them. Yeah. But yeah, while this is in effect, if you make a full round attack, it gives you bonus to attack and damage, which is not bad in general. If you're fighting defensively, it also gives you spell resistance. And if you take a total defense action for some fucking reason, gives you DR5 magic. It's really here for the first two abilities and the fact this is a swift action and a low-ass level spell for a decent buff. XP, other things in here, let's see, Expeditious Retreat Swift is also in here, so swift action for 30 feet of movement, swift action for fly. The spells that infuriate me, So here's Golem.
Yeah.
So here's Golem Strike and Grave Strike, which let you apply sneak attack to constructs and undead respectively, which are great spells for that rogue to take from. Okay, you have to multiclass to fucking take these, and and you have to multiclass into Sorcerer Wizard for Golem Strike and into Clerk Paladin for Grave Strike because heaven forbid we fucking let these overlap.
Now, at the very least, there is. I mean, actually, technically, there's a wizard rogue multi-class as well. Like a Shadowbane Inquisitor can use Grave Strike, no problem.
Yes.
Do you want to know what I think is the most annoying thing outside of requiring multi-classing to get access to it? Duration's only 1 round.
It's also swift action. It's basically just cast it and do a full round.
Yeah.
It's also a first level spell, so yeah, who cares? It's only 1 round.
You have plenty of first level spells generally.
Yeah. Like it is a spell that arcane tricksters would technically have, or would more than likely grab.
Well, they'd have access to Golem
Yeah.
Strike. They wouldn't have access to Grave Strike.
Yeah. Honestly, Grave Strike is probably the one that's more likely to come up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just play a Shadowbane Inquisitor, and then you're golden. Smite it too.
It also annoys me that there isn't just, a feat that does this exact fucking thing.
Yes.
No, we can't allow that.
And granted, there is a quick fix to this. It is called Buy Pathfinder First Edition, just use those rules.
Just play Pathfinder First Edition.
Yeah. Let's see. Guided Shot, which is a conditional thing, basically. Lets you ignore the AC bonus from cover. And reduces the penalty for shooting past max range. It's not the best of things, but just having one of these memorized as a ranger is not a terrible thing if you're a ranged ranger. It's a first level spell and might come up. Swift Haste, which is strangely enough ranger only, but is just straight good because it's a round of haste.
Yeah. Extra attack.
Yeah, extra attack, some minor bonuses.
AC.
Yeah. Inspirational Boost. This is a swift action that just makes your Inspire Courage 1 better. It's a 1 level bard spell, so sure, why not?
Yeah, why not?
Yep. Swift Invisibility.
Assassin spell.
Yeah. Okay, realistically, it's a bard level 2 spell. It's a get out of being surrounded immediately and probably being horribly murdered next round if I don't get the fuck away spell. Yeah, just being able to turn invisible as a swift action is great.
Yep.
Also, if you're a ninja multi-class that has caster levels in Bard, I guess?
You could go into Assassin.
I mean, you could.
It exists.
So anyways, if you multi-class into Bard as a ninja... Alright, Hindsight, which is not just here because it's titular. I genuinely like this spell, but I hate the fact that it's so high level. Because... this is a divination spell, which, now granted, that tends to act as a DM plot. Divination spells that try to see things tend to act as a DM plot device. Except this one is actually way more interesting and fair. So this lets you see what happened at the place you're specifically at, and the details of what you see are better the more recent the event is. So... this is just a great spell for gathering information, and you can actually make you can make a legitimate quest or mission out of it, or you actually have to be clever to use it. It isn't just cast this spell, name a dude, and you see where he is. And that will certainly work. The DM isn't certainly going to screw with you or say fuck no. You're not fucking getting around the entirety of this campaign with one spell. No, this is a divination spell actually done right, and I at least want to point that part out. Other than all the parts that are done wrong, which is the fact that it's a 6th level fucking bard spell, a 9th level sorcerer wizard spell, and has a costly ass material component. You could I think you could half the level of the spell and it would be fine.
I mean, it does have a cost material component, but 1,000 gold means nothing when you're in 9th.
1,000 gold means nothing at the level they put this spell at, but my biggest complaint is the fact that it is that level.
You're able to cast 9th level spells, you lose 1,000 gold. Don't notice it.
Yeah. But yeah, this is a divination spell you actually kind of have to work for, and isn't just I'm sitting in the inn and woke up in the morning and decided to cast the spell that ruins the campaign.
Where's the fun in that?
Let's see. Master's Touch. What? Oh yes, you gain you straight up gain proficiency in a weapon.
Item.
Yeah. And this is a swift action, so if you don't actually want to take an exotic weapon proficiency feat, you can just use the spell instead as a bard. It's a swift action, so it's not really eating up much in your action economy.
Yep. It lasts a minute per level, so it's a decent duration to it.
Yeah, so it will last the entire combat.
Oh, hey, look, Vine Strike. Do you want sneak attack plants?
Yeah, you want to sneak attack plants. I'm not complaining about this one anywhere near as much. How many fucking plants have you fought in your D&D campaign? Did you remember there being a sneak attack? And finally, Wraith Strike, which is exactly what you think. Well, this is in fact... Oh, no, wait, no, this is way better than what you think. This is your melee weapon, natural attack, become ghostly in early turns, blah, blah, blah. Your melee attacks are touch attacks.
Yeah, it's great for assassins.
Oh, nice.
So it's on the assassin list.
It is great for assassins. It's also great for anyone making melee attacks. Especially
sure,
for
if you're a
melee.
sorcerer wizard.
Yeah, the problem is it's like level 2 sorcerer wizard. These are actually the spells that I do, but these are actually the spells that like probably the most needed to exist, which are sorcerer and wizard spells that benefit classes other than sorcerer and wizard.
Yep. Or assassin. I mean, you can just play assassin and get the access to this.
You have all these spells, it just doesn't make assassin good. I mean, that one actually helps at least.
It does make assassin better.
It does make assassin better. Alright. Now on to the less crunchy parts of and more semi-mechanical parts, I guess. But yeah, this book has organizations. Man, this book has a lot of organizations. This book has a lot of symbols for organizations. Here's the Black Block Lore Seeker symbol. Here's the Bloodhound symbol. There were several more. We're not going to talk about them in detail because there's not really much of a point. These are more or less meant to be tools for DMs to basically pick up and freely drop into campaigns of one sort or another. Like Bloodhounds definitely have a prestige class tied to it, but yeah.
Vince,
go ahead.
this is very important. We do need to talk about Organization 13.
Do we? Do we really?
You don't have that much time.
Sudden and powerful hijack into Kingdom Hearts lore out of nowhere.
I've only had the slides prepared.
I mean, to be fair, it is very unlikely we're going to see Organization 13 in Kingdom Hearts 4.
Oh, so you claim.
I said unlikely. I did not say impossible.
And also, here's some rules, guidelines, whatever, for building an organization, because I will remind you, this is 3.5, and we have to make everything overbuilt in every way possible. On the other hand, tables, and tables are fun. So I'm kind of torn on this one.
Roll this table to determine which Organization 13 member you are.
You are.
To make an organization,
university.
you have to gather 13 different versions of yourself from various points in time.
Why are all the
right,
results Xehanort?
I can say I need a generator which will take my name and mix up my letters with certain random X.
Yes, man sex.
Alright, so my name is Xehanort. What the fuck's going on here?
That's because your actual name is No Heart X.
Oh, goddamn.
But yeah, in general, I do like this idea. On the other hand, yeah, this is overcomplicated for actually building an organization.
Yeah.
And finally, shoved in the back is the epic rules. Okay, so
Where
anyways.
they too long.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's this book. We've gotten through a complete adventure. Yep, it's a complete book. It's not complete arcane. That's probably the best of them so far, honestly. And also, I think skill classes probably need more than they got from this book, because as I've been dancing around, skills are just kind of overfair. Not just in this edition, but in most editions of D&D, they basically do whatever the DM will let you get away with, and they're not. They don't have anything terribly broken baked into them. certain ones stand out more than others. In later editions, when they start to do skill condensing, perception, for example, is overtly the most powerful skill in the game, because perception checks are how you not done get ambushed and or see things that advance plot. Whereas the other skills tend to be more more niche. Also, Pathfinder First Edition Rune Stumble, but that's a different matter entirely.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, as far as just making skills more powerful, it doesn't really do that, and it doesn't. It obviously it can't. The new core classes aren't really. They're different than Rogue. They're not more powerful than Rogue, which is not really a greatly powerful class in the first place. And as a matter of fact, I'd probably say, with the exception of Ninja, the other two are just outright kind of weaker rogues. Skirmish needed more than what it got, honestly, for the concept. Like, they were overly precautious with that one. But yeah, in general, there's still stuff in here. There's still fun stuff I like. Ironically, probably when it comes to prestige classes, one of the bigger standout is the Master of Many Forms, which is, let me check. No, oh yeah, that's not a rogue class. That's a druid class.
That is a druid class.
As a matter of fact, the best rogue prestige class in here was...
Your rogue prestige class?
No, there's a lot of multi-class... Okay, so, I don't know, your choice of, like, Shadowbane Inquisitor, the... the Dagger Spell Mages, the... Hey, wait, aren't they... or Dagger Spell Mage or Dagger Spell Shaper, or, Yeah, so there's that problem too. Like, there's no prestige classes in here for Rogue that are actually, like, all that interesting. I'm not even talking about, like, good from a power level. I'm talking about more, like, good from this would be fun to run. It's like... there are things that would be fun to roleplay. I could roleplay, like, Dread Pirate. Pirates are always fun, but I don't need Dread Pirate as a class to roleplay as a pirate. I could just roleplay as a pirate.
Pirate.
Yep.
How could you possibly roleplay as a pirate without being a pirate class? I say to myself and you, having played through an entire campaign where we were pirates.
We were pirates, and no one was a pirate class.
Pirate class. I was a ninja.
But yeah, anyone else have any thoughts on this book?
In general, I appreciate the idea of having to expand on the idea of the sneaky skullduggery aspect of D&D, because that always has had a place in fantasy, whether archetypically or even on a setting basis. That said, I agree with everything you were saying about it. Skills are mostly just there as a tool to interact with the world. And while it is nice that they started making spells and other things for people who aren't wizards and clerics, or any of the other casters, this was only an okay first step.
Yeah. Now, the good news is the second Rogue book, which we eventually get, is a much better book.
I think that's the one I'm actually more familiar with.
Yeah. But, yeah. That will be all we have for you this week. So join us on Sunday for more Super Robot Wars 30, where I think we're almost done with all the star or whatever the hell the main missions are, and we can get back to the main, I'm using this in complete quotes, missions, the ones that actually just advance the chapter. Join us on Monday for more Pokemon Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, Soul Link run, where we're still on Seed 10, amazingly.
I'm really hoping we keep on just like and beat it.
Yeah, I got a good
just
feeling
for
this
the
is the one.
hilarity.
Yeah. And join us back here on Thursday, where we will be going over Races of the Wild and Sandstorm. And possibly... Yeah, and
Yeah,
possibly
maybe
the
two.
book after that, possibly not. Depends on time, really. But yeah. Till then, I'm Vincent.
I've been the
I'm
Krampus.
Shiv.
One of these days, those two will get in order, right? I've been Hunter Green.
And I'm Vincent. And remember, everyone, if you make a high enough spot check, you will realize that hindsight is 20/20.